Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan armies exchange fire on disputed border. At least one person died and 18 others were wounded after clashes erupted on Thursday between the militaries of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan at a disputed section of the Central Asian nation's border. Kyrgyzstan's health ministry said in a statement that there were 17 casualties in the clashes, including one fatality. Tajikistan's security committee said 2 of its citizens had been injured, with one in serious condition. The fighting followed a reported conflict over water infrastructure at the frontier between the two countries, which have had a series of border disputes since gaining independence with the 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union. More than a third of the border is disputed, with the area surrounding the de facto Tajik exclave of Voruk, where Thursday's conflict erupted, a regular point of clashes over territory and access to water. Kyrgyzstan's National Security Committee said that the Tajik side deliberately provoked the conflict at the border. Shooting has begun between the military units of the two countries. According to preliminary information, the Tajik side is setting up positions for mortar fire, the committee said. Tajikistan's security committee accused Kyrgyz servicemen of opening fire on Tajik troops at the site of the Golovnaya water distribution point, located in the upper reaches of the Isfara River. Its National Security Committee said 2 people had been admitted to hospital with gunshot wounds, one of whom was in a serious condition. It said Kyrgyz and Tajik civilians had on Wednesday become embroiled in a conflict over river infrastructure. 7 Tajik nationals were injured after Kyrgyz threw stones at them, it said. Border disagreements between the 3 countries that share the fertile Fergana Valley, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, have their roots in border demarcations during the Soviet Union. The knotting, twisting frontiers left several communities with restricted access to their home countries. Kyrgyzstan said Friday that its death toll in armed clashes with Central Asian rival Tajikistan had reached 13, after the pair agreed a ceasefire following the worst fighting along their disputed border in years. Kyrgyzstan's health ministry said that it had suffered 134 casualties, including 13 fatalities, with 2 of the injured in a serious condition. A girl born in 2008 was among the casualties, it said. Over 10,000 citizens had been evacuated from 2 districts bordering Tajikistan, where the fighting had been most intense, Kyrgyzstan also said. The government of Kyrgyzstan's Batkhan region, which borders Tajikistan, said the citizens had been placed in specially organized points in its administrative center, or went to visit relatives. Military units from the 2 countries began exchanging fire on Thursday, but later that day a ceasefire was announced by Kyrgyzstan's foreign ministry from 8 p.m., with armed forces returning to their bases. Tajikistan acknowledged the ceasefire in a statement published by its state information service early on Friday, saying the 2 sides came to a mutual agreement to end the armed conflict, to withdraw personnel and military equipment to places of permanent deployment. A representative of the police in Kyrgyzstan's Batkhan region said that shooting had continued during the night, but not intensively. Shooting occurred between both military units and civilians. More than a third of their border is disputed, with the area surrounding the Tajik enclave of Voruk, where Thursday's conflict erupted, a regular flashpoint over territorial claims and access to water. Tajikistan, a closed authoritarian state, made fewer statements as the clashes unfolded, noting that 2 citizens had been admitted to hospital, with one in a serious condition. Its security committee accused Kyrgyz soldiers of opening fire on Tajik troops at the Golovnaya water distribution point, located on the Isfara River. It said Kyrgyz and Tajik civilians had become embroiled in a dispute over river infrastructure on Wednesday. Residents on both sides threw rocks at each other before clashes escalated and the sides began exchanging gunfire, according to the security agencies of both countries. Kyrgyzstan's President said.Tajikistan called for restraint, urging citizens to not allow themselves to be provoked. Videos shared on social media showed people on the Kyrgyz side sitting in a trench with the sound of gunfire in the background. Another video showed several houses, purportedly those evacuated by Kyrgyz villagers, set ablaze. Border disagreements between the 3 countries that share the fertile Fergana Valley, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, stem from demarcations made during the Soviet era. A ceasefire on the border between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan largely held Friday following a day of intense fighting between the two ex-Soviet Central Asian neighbors that killed about 40 people and wounded about 175. More than 7,000 Kyrgyz residents have been evacuated from the area engulfed by the fighting as troops from the two countries exchanged gunfire around a water supply facility near the village of Koktash, located in western Kyrgyzstan on the border with Tajikistan. Both nations have claimed the area around the water supply facility in Koktash, a dispute dating back decades to when they were both part of the Soviet Union. Kyrgyz officials reported firing on the border early Friday, but later said the truce was being observed. Kyrgyzstan's Deputy Health Minister, Jalaluddin Rakhmachilayev, told the Interfax news agency that 31 people died and 154 others were injured in the clashes, which marked the worst outbreak of hostilities between the two countries since they gained independence in the 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union. Local officials in Tajikistan's city of Isfara, which is near the area of the clashes, reported 8 dead and over 30 wounded. Kyrgyz President said.Tajikistan spoke by phone Friday with his Tajik counterpart, Emomali Rakhman, to discuss measures to quickly de-escalate the situation on the border, Japarov's office said in a statement. A large part of the Tajik-Kyrgyz border remains unmarked, fueling fierce disputes over water, land and pastures. Kyrgyz and Tajik delegations have held several rounds of talks in recent years, but failed to end the border controversy. The latest conflict erupted Wednesday when Tajik officials attempted to mount surveillance cameras to monitor the water supply facility amid the tensions over water distribution, and Kyrgyz residents opposed the move. The Kyrgyz and the Tajiks began hurling stones at each other, and troops quickly entered the fray. Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are both members of the Russia-dominated Collective Security Treaty Organization. The Russian Foreign Ministry on Friday voiced concern about the conflict and urged them to negotiate a lasting settlement. The European Union on Friday welcomed the ceasefire deal and emphasized the need for a lasting and peaceful solution. Both sides will need to undertake all the necessary steps to avoid any conflict in the future, EU spokesman Peter Stano said in a statement, adding that the EU stands ready to provide technical assistance on border and water management as well as political support.